All right, good evening, everyone. Thank you for attending this regular called meeting of the Temple City Council. It is currently 5 p.m. on July 3rd. Please rise as Father Will Rooney with St. Mary's Catholic Church leads in the invocation, which will be followed by our pledge of allegiance led by the City Secretary, Jan Lou Ellen.
Join me in prayer. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Good and gracious God, Father of all, we thank you for the gift that you have given us of this day. We thank you for the city council and for the city in which we live and work and grow. We ask that you would bless the efforts of the council and all the citizens of the city, that they may be ordered always to the common good of each person, that they may flourish as they are made in your image and likeness. Please bless our efforts. We ask these things in your name. Amen. And Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Father Rooney. Thank you, Jana. Next is public comments. Anyone wishing to address the council in any matter may do so, as long as you signed up prior to this meeting. I do not, we don't have any tonight. Okay, very good. Then we'll just move on to the next item, which is item 3, is to consider adopting a resolution approving an appointment to fill a vacancy for council member District 3 for an unexpired term ending May 2026. The city council administered a number of interviews. I think we had 8 or 9 in all, the different citizens that had signed up and applied to fill the vacancy. And Mr. Carl Kirkendall ultimately ended up being selected. And we appreciate your willingness to serve, and we're looking forward to working with you. So council, so Carl, you're not a council member yet. It's just a minute. So council, I will entertain a motion on item 3 to adopt the resolution approving Carl Kirkendall. I say that all the time. I'm sorry. Carl Kirkendall to fill the unexpired District 3 seat.
I'll make a motion to approve Councilmember Kirkendall. Second.
We have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Walker. We have a second by Councilmember Grant. Council, please cast your vote. Item 3 passes 4 votes to 0. So we'll move on to item 4, which is to have Judge Persons administer the oath of office to the newly appointed and properly voted upon District 3 council member.
You know, it helps. Okay, are you ready?
I'm ready.
So if you would repeat after me. I, Carl Kirkendall,
I, Carl Kirkendall,
do solemnly affirm
do solemnly affirm
that I will faithfully execute the duties
that I will faithfully execute the duties
of the position of City Council Member District 3
of the position of City Council Member District 3
to the best of my ability. I'm sorry, for the state of Texas,
for the state of Texas,
and will to the best of my ability
and will to the best of my ability
preserve, protect, and defend
preserve, protect, and defend
the Constitution
the Constitution
and the laws of the state.
and the laws of this state.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Man. Councilmember Kirkendall, congratulations and welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Look forward to working with you. All right, next item is to recognize July 2025 as Parks and Recreation Month in the city of Temple. Do we have anybody? Is one there? Are you it?
Jeff's here.
Okay. Anyone in parks, come on down.
We bring a lot of people with us. We
Okay.
go places.
You want me to read the proclamation first?
Sure.
Okay. So
Okay.
if I may, from the office of the mayor of the city of Temple, whereas Parks and Recreation programs are an integral part of communities throughout this country, including Temple. Whereas our Parks and Recreation are vitally important to establishing and maintaining the quality of life in our communities, ensuring the health of all citizens, and contributing to the economic and environmental well-being of a community and region. And whereas Parks and Recreation programs build healthy, active communities that aid in the prevention of chronic disease, provide therapeutic recreation services, and improve the mental and emotional health of citizens. And whereas Parks and Recreation programs increase a community's economic prosperity, increases tourism, and adds to the attraction and retention of business. Whereas parks and natural recreation areas improve our water quality, protect groundwater, prevent flooding, and improve the quality of the air we breathe, provide vegetative buffers to development, and produce habitat for wildlife. And whereas our parks and natural recreation areas ensure the ecological beauty of our community and provide a place for children and adults to connect with nature and to recreate outdoors. And whereas the U.S. House of Representatives has designated July as Parks and Recreation Month, and the City of Temple recognizes the benefits derived from parks and recreation resources. Now therefore, I, Timothy A. Davis, Mayor of the City of Temple, Texas, do hereby proclaim the month of July 2025 as Parks and Recreation Month in the City of Temple, Texas, and I encourage all citizens to get out and enjoy our local parks and recreation areas. In testimony whereof, I witness my hand and the seal of the City of Temple, Texas, on this third day of July 2025. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor and Council, for letting us come up. July is an exciting time for our department. Parks and Recreation Month is a time to recognize, like Mayor said, the role our parks, trails, and programs play in strengthening our community and enhancing the quality of life in Temple. We have a variety of fun activities planned throughout the whole month, and we'll be wrapping up at the end of the month with a new program called Play the Temple Way, which will be at Santa Fe Plaza on Saturday, July 26th. Each of our Parks and Recreation divisions, as well as several other community groups, are going to be out there representing what kind of services we have for the citizens, and we hope to see you guys there. I know I speak for Kevin and Chuck, who are not here tonight, but whenever I say that we're so incredibly thankful to lead such an amazing team, and we're lucky to have people at all levels of the organization that are so devoted and dedicated to our community. So up here is just a little sampling of some of our folks, but I'll run through the list here, and whenever I say your name, if you'll just do a little wave, be great. All right, David Milas is our development manager. Thank you. Jeff Ward is the golf course general manager. Lee Bullock is one of our parks division director. Gary Kozel is a foreman in Parks Department, and Donald LaPointe, Parks foreman. Mike Mayfield, Recreation Division Director. Susan Kraus, Recreation Division Director. For our aquatics team, we have Clarice Free, who's the program manager. Matt Waskovich, program coordinator. John Gomez Simmons, who's a program coordinator. For athletics, we have our program manager, Austin Chick, and two program coordinators, Tracy Klusacek and Alexis Arguelles. From Salmon's Community Center, we have our program manager, Marissa Ibarra. From Summit Recreation Center, our program manager, Josh Laudig, and our program coordinator, Ladia Harris. And then from Wilson Recreation Center, we have our program manager, Travis Hovermail. All right, thank you, guys.
So Leah, it's always a tradition on Parks and Rec Month, and Kevin and Chuck didn't show up because they're afraid,
I think maybe so.
but we always play a trivia game.
Uh-oh.
So what is the oldest park in the City of Temple system? Maybe one of your folks that's leaving knows if you don't.
Jackson Park.
She got it. Good job,
This is
Jackson.
Jackson Park.
Deb's here.
We'll take it.
I got all red there.
Good job. Oh, and by the way, before everyone leaves and for the public here, the fireworks show that'll be put on, right? Tomorrow is, I think sometimes we forget whenever we go and enjoy a fireworks show and we have all this entertainment, the Parks and Rec folks have been out there working in the sun and putting that program together, working hard to provide for all of us. So your group left for the most part, but I want you to know how much the city council, and I hope the residents appreciate all the work that gets done by Parks and Rec, but also by fire, by police. That July 4th is work in the city of Temple. So thank y'all for everything that you've done. Chiefs, thank y'all too. Also, great job.
Definitely a team effort.
It is. It is. Thanks. Hopefully. Okay, very, very good. Let's move on. The next item is to consider adopting a resolution setting the date, time, and place of the public hearing for the proposed fiscal year 2025-2026 budget for July 17th, 2025 at 5 p.m. in council chambers. Anybody like to comment on that before we vote?
Broke my mic earlier. Can you guys, okay. Mayor and council, this item just allows us to schedule out a public hearing on our budget. As you all know, we will have a full budget work session next Friday, July 11th, to get into more details about that, what that contains. And then this gives us the opportunity on the 17th to hold the first public hearing related to the proposed budget.
Okay, very good. Thank you. So council, with that, and if there are no questions, I will entertain a motion on item 6.
I move to hold a meeting, or a hearing on the fiscal year 2025-2026 budget for July 17th, 2025 at 5 p.m. in the city council chambers.
I'll second it.
We have a motion by Councilmember Pilkington. We have a second by Mayor Pro Tem Walker. Council, please cast your vote. Technical difficulties.
Come on, Ricky.
It's always the new guy.
Not set up to vote.
Can I just say yes?
Yeah, you're gonna verbal.
No.
No,
Okay, looks like it worked.
no.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
It's
got it.
our fault.
All right, no problem.
Okay. All right. So item 5 passes 5 votes to 0. Councilmember Kirkendall, it might be because it's been so long since that machine's actually been used to vote on anything. So we're glad to have you here.
Yeah, but I'm not a real techie either.
Well, that's okay. That's all right. It's just a button. All right. So very good. So item 6, which is the setting of the date, time, and place for the public hearing for the budget, passes 6 votes to 0. Moving on to item 7 is a presentation of the proposed Community Development Block Grant 2025 through 2029 Consolidated Plan and the 2025-2026 Annual Action Plan and Budget, including funding representatives by Ms. Chopin.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. We have our consultants from Mullen and Lonergan Associates available via Zoom to present these plans for us.
Hi, can you guys hear me? Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah. Good evening. My name is Maya Smiley, and as Brittany said, I am one of the consultants working on the consolidated plan with M&L Associates. This slideshow presentation is to just gather comments on the activities that have been proposed for the budget for the 2025 to 2026 annual action plan, and as well as the priority needs that were identified for the 2025 and through 2029 consolidated plan. You can move to the next slide. And this is just a brief introduction. Like I said, my name is Maya Smiley. I'm the Housing Community Development Specialist. And Bill Woloski is our president, and he couldn't be here tonight, but he also helped us work on this plan as well as with the City of Temple's Housing and Community Development Department. Get to the next slide. And like I stated before, this is just to provide an overview of the 5-year consolidated planning process and discuss the basic of the CDBG program, as well as review the priority needs that were identified for the 5-year consolidated planning cycle, which is from 2025 to 2029, and then to give any public input on the current housing, homeless, and community development needs that were identified with the projects that were selected for this 2025 to 2026 year. We can go to the next slide. So for the 5-year consolidated planning process, the time period covers is from October 1st through September 30th. And so the process started with the stakeholder consultations that were held in March. We reached out to the public agencies, nonprofits, residents, the homeless assistance organizations, the public housing authority. And part of the consolidated plan is the housing and homeless needs assessment, the housing market analysis, and the strategic plan, where we identify the priority needs for the next 5 years. And then lastly, the annual action plan, where we develop the proposed activities for the program year, which is October 1st, 2025 to September 30th of 2026, which would be this year's program year. You can use the next slide. Okay. And like I said before, the City of Temple, they conducted outreach for a stakeholder consultation, as well as the first public hearing that was held in March, as well as an online survey to gather the needs of the community. This would be the public meeting, and then on July 17th would be the next public hearing, where we would identify the where we would approve the selected projects. You can go to the next slide. Next slide. In this next slide here, these are the priority needs that were identified for the 2025 to 2029 for the consolidated planning year. They're very similar to the last plan. And the first priority need was to create new housing units, acquisition and rehabilitation of units, affordable housing for special needs population, financial assistance to eligible home buyers, homeless prevention services, minor repairs to existing units, and code enforcement. These were all identified as high-level needs, and each of them are associated with the goals that are inside of the plan. And the plan is currently on display right now as well, which would go into detail about the associated goals. You can move on to the next slide. And the next priorities were demolition and clearance, improvements of public infrastructure, improved public facilities, public services, planning, administration, fair housing services, and economic development and assistance to businesses. You can move on to the next slide. So for the 2025 year, the allocations were posted by HUD on May 14th, and there was a slight increase from last year, a 10% increase from the 2024. In 2024, the City of Temple received $650,413, and this year they were awarded $717,139,000 in CDBG funds. You can move on to the next one. And so the selected projects that are being proposed for the CDBG program is for the NRSA programming for $50,000 and $50,021. The Housing Improvement Program, which is $107,567. The LMI Demolition Project, which is $40,000. Homeless and Mental Health Strategic Plan, which is $404,000 and $8,000. Administration is $115,544. And so the next part of the plan is where we talk about any comments that may be on the proposed activities that we just talked about, as well as the draft plan, which is currently on display on the city's website. I don't know if anybody had any questions about any of the projects that were proposed that were just talked about. if you wanted to go back to that slide so everyone can see the projects.
Council, any questions on the presentation so far? No, go ahead and proceed.
Okay. So this next slide is just to give an overview of the process and the next steps. We've already completed the public participation in March, and the draft of the consolidated plan and annual action plan was completed in May. And we're currently in that 30-day public comment period, which ends on July 15th. And we had the first public meeting on July 1st, and this will be the second public hearing, which is July 3rd. And then there will be another hearing on July 17th for the city council to approve the budget as well as the projects that were proposed for this evening. And then on August 10th is where we will submit the plan. The HUD and the program year will begin on October 1st of 2025 and ending on 2026. If you have any additional questions or any comments that you want to submit, you can reach out to Brittany Chopin, and this is her email and her phone number as well.
Thank you, ma'am. All right, this item is subject to a public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak on this item may do so. We ask you step to the podium, state your name and address for the record, or raise your hand on the virtual platform. Anybody from the audience? Nothing virtually? All right. Then at this time, I'll close the public hearing. Moving on to the next item, which is a consent agenda. All items listed under this section are to be considered routine by the city council and may be enacted in one motion. If discussion is desired by any council member, that item may be removed from the consent agenda at the request of that council member and will be considered separately. During workshop, we decided that we would pull, just for voting purposes, we would pull items 8J and 8S. So, council, if there is no discussion, or if anyone, does anyone need to pull anything else for further discussion, or are we good with moving forward? Be okay?
Mayor, I just, I see Representative Hickland in the audience. And so just to our conversation earlier about the ASR, I think it's item number Q, the contract with Intera to move forward with the permit application for our aquifer storage and recovery system. I just wanted to thank Representative Hickland for her support of that bill that allows us to use purified reclaimed water for that system. And just repeat, since there's some new faces in the audience now, that opportunity allows us to add 12,000 acre feet of water to our community. And just for perspective, the average annual use that we are using at this moment is usually around 19, just shy of 20,000 acre feet of water. So that's 60% of what we currently use will be additive because of this new system that we're able to develop because of that legislative initiative. And so just wanted to, I saw her sneak in, so I wanted to thank her for her support of that, and just also take another opportunity to thank y'all for your leadership on that initiative, and just highlight how significant this particular opportunity is for protecting the city of Temple's future and setting us up for success by ensuring that we have water resources that meet our needs well into the future.
That's one of those items that shows up as this very small column in the newspaper, and you think, oh, that's not that big a deal. But it is, as Bryn said, it is a monumental deal for the city of Temple. We talked about it a little bit earlier, and to me, I like the numbers, right? That's a 60% increase in our water availability with about a 10% increase in cost versus what it would take to get that water elsewhere. So it moves the city forward at a very affordable rate. And unfortunately, in most cities, we don't get to do that very often. So we'll always take a good financial deal. So Representative Hickland, thank you for your help and leadership on that. We very much appreciate it. All right, so let's move on. So council, if we're not going to discuss anything further on the consent, I'll entertain a motion on the consent agenda, which is items 8A through 8B, less items 8J and 8S. I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve the consent agenda, items 8A through 8B, AB minus J and S.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Grant. We have a second by Councilmember Pilkington. Council, please cast your vote.
I think you're gonna have to do verbal for tonight.
That's strange.
Yes, yes, thank you.
Very good. Items 8A through 8B minus J and S passes 5 votes to 0. Moving on to item 8J is to consider adopting a resolution authorizing change order number 4 to the construction contract with Emerson Construction Incorporated of Temple for the Outer Loop West Phase 1 project in the estimated amount of $149,151.43. Council, I will, if further discussion is desired, let's have that. Otherwise, I will entertain a motion on item 8A. I'm sorry, 8J.
Make a motion to approve item 8J.
Second.
We have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Walker. We have a second by Councilmember Grant. Council, please cast your vote. We're good. I see where it says pass over in the corner. So, okay. So I'm assuming everyone voted for it. So, this item passes, 4 votes yes, 0 votes no, and 1 abstention by Councilmember Pilkington. Item S is to consider adopting a resolution. Yes, consider adopting a resolution authorizing a professional services agreement with Casper Patrick and Associates of Temple for services required for 30% design of the Midway Drive to Thornton Lane corridor in the estimated amount of $917,400. And council, if there's no discussion, I'll entertain a motion on item 8S.
Mayor Davis, representing District 3.
There you go.
I'm tickled to death to absolutely second that.
Representing District 4, that's the other half of the road. I'm very happy to second this, and we know that road's horrible too, and Kegley was bad, and we've just about got that complete. And I'm happy to kick off starting getting this road fixed up too. So
very good.
I'll second that.
All right. We have a motion by new council member Carl Kirkendall. We have a second by council member Pilkington. Council, please cast your vote. And it worked. So we're good. This item passes 5 votes to 0. Moving on to the regular agenda. Before I read in the regular agenda, there are a couple of items on here that are going to be postponed. I know we have lots of people here that might want to speak on different items. So item number 9, which is the community center over on Honor Lane, is going to be postponed until August 7th. And I'm sorry. No, August.
We
Yeah.
are not able to repost the public hearing in time to have a reading on July 17th. And in addition, again, timing wise, I think if you all would like to have a more certain report back from from myself and working with the nonprofit, I think that August 7th would be a more appropriate date to target for that decision.
So if anyone is here to speak at the public hearing on item 9 or item 11, those 2 items are going to be postponed until the first meeting in August. And we're not going to hold the public hearing at this time either. So you can head home if that's what you're here for, or stay and enjoy the entertainment. But I do have to read them in. So item 9 is the first reading of public hearing to consider adopting an ordinance authorizing a rezoning request from Plan Development Single Family Attached Dwelling 3 to office on 0.16 plus or minus acres in the Maximo Marino Survey, abstract number 14, City of Temple, Bell County, Texas, addressed as 1252 Honor Lane. Council, I'll entertain a motion on postponing this item until August 7th meeting.
To postpone item 9 until the August 7th meeting.
We have a motion by Councilmember Pilkington. We have a second by Mayor Pro Tem Walker. Council, please cast your vote.
Kathy, before they do that, if we do a date uncertain in the event that we're able to work through a nonprofit partner and the zoning request goes away, if you post it, if you do what you're about to do, we'll have to put it back on the agenda even if they're not requesting it anymore. So you may consider doing a date uncertain with the understanding that if
Happens
the
fast.
zoning needs to move forward, it will move forward on August 7th, but otherwise it's not just back on your agenda for no reason.
I'd like to amend my motion to strike the August 7th date and put, what we need to, future date.
Just keeping in mind that we would need to know at least 16 days before that date so we can republish the notice. We would have to republish the notice if we're postponing to an uncertain date. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we're postponing to a future date, correct?
I'll second Mike's amendment.
Okay. So Mike has amended the initial motion.
Second his amendment.
Very good. Then council member, please cast your vote. Item 9 to postpone to a future date passes 5 votes to 0. Item 10 is the first reading and a public hearing to consider adopting an ordinance authorizing a rezoning and a binding site development plan from commercial to light industrial to planned development commercial on 2.74 plus or minus acres located in the George Givens Survey Abstract Number 354, City of Temple, Bell County, Texas, addresses 5214 and 5300 South General Bruce Drive. Mr. Chandler.
All right, good evening, Mayor and Council. And so here's the site, and on the right, you can see the aerial. Of course, this is on the west side of South General Bruce Drive. And so this is a proposed expansion of the existing United Rentals facility. And the architect and owner are both here in case you have any questions for them. And so just starting with some photos. So starting at the top left, this is the area that they're proposing to expand the existing business into. So there are, I think, 3 different buildings on the site, 2 of which are going to go away, which you can see bottom right-hand corner, that orange building would be removed. Bottom left-hand corner, that blue building, or those 2 blue buildings would also be removed, basically leaving that metal warehouse. And then on the top, you can see the existing United Rentals facility, which of course they rent heavy machinery, lifts and booms, etc. And so just looking to the south, you can see what the neighbor properties look like. And then at the bottom, neighbor to the north. And then just looking at undeveloped land, west side of Charter Oak behind the property. And just looking at Kubota, this is from several years ago, a similar situation in which non-conforming use, use that not allowed by right, but relocating Kubota from a different section of the I-35 corridor. A plan development was approved at that time. And so just a little bit of background. This item was tabled at the April 7th meeting just to allow a little bit more time to address some staff concerns. Also, just looking at the property, you can see the zoning. So the light industrial, light purple is the current site. And then the expansion is to commercial property. And of course, both of these are located within the I-35 corridor overlay within the retail sub-district. And so the heavy machinery sales, storage, and repair, they're allowed in both those base districts, but they're not allowed in the current overlay. United Rentals located at the current site prior to the adoption of the overlay. So it's considered a legally non-conforming use. To expand that required the plan development. And so just looking at our comprehensive plan, this area has been identified as regional commercial, which you can kind of see in that, it's called a salmon color, peachish color. In terms of thoroughfare plan, trails master plan, no conflicts, and of course, utilities are available along this section of I-35. And so due to the fact that this is a plan development, there is a binding site plan attached to it. And so we have been working very closely with the applicant to kind of put the best foot forward, so to speak, related to what you see on the plan here, that originally it just included the expansion. So the portion on the left side, after some discussions with P&Z, they recommended that we go back to the drawing board, work with the applicant, include the existing site so that any improvements on the existing facilities, fencing, landscaping, architectural standards could be enforceable, implementable. So that's what has been done. And just in a nutshell, what you're seeing there, the green, so dark green, we're going to go a little bit backwards, but in terms of what is on the screen, that green is meeting the landscaping standards on the expanded site for the I-35 overlay. 5, that's landscaping right-of-way, which of course that is TxDOT right-of-way and would require TxDOT approval. Retention of existing trees, and one that staff was hoping they would be able to incorporate. There's a 36-inch live oak shown number 4, kind of in the middle of the new site to the left there. But the others they have agreed to retain. Also showing the minimum of the 15% landscaping in number 6. And so when we look at the purpose of the overlay, which, you know, per section 6.7 of the I-35 overlay, you know, essentially is to increase the aesthetics through architectural standards and development and additional landscaping to make I-35 an aesthetically pleasing place to live, work, and shop, and as a gateway. And so despite the applicant's efforts, staff has not interpreted their proposal to still meet the overall intent of the overlay. And so just a reminder that their use is not allowed. So the plan development would allow the expansion of the use. Conditional use permits, we see those fairly regularly. That's not an option here because that has to be specifically defined in the overlay. And there's actually Mr. Deckman is presenting a case on the northern edge of North General Bruce a little bit later, which that is a conditional use permit in the overlay because that use is shown in the table. This one is not even considered. Therefore, the plan development is required. And just some additional development standards for consideration that, you know, staff looked at, P&Z considered. Some of them they adopted and were recommended, and others they did not, including, you know, staff's recommendation to move, you know, keep the equipment, the smaller equipment in the front, you know, the boom lifts, put them in the back. Understandably, the applicant said that it's not particularly feasible for them. P&Z agreed. Also just retaining the 36-inch oak tree, understood that that does not work with their site plan, but we're hoping they can incorporate that.
Brian, can I ask?
Yes, sir.
Oak or elm?
That one is
elm
an
that was going
oak.
away?
So there are elms on the site too, but the 36-inch live oak. So on the left, kind of to the left of the building in the center, that number 4 is the 36-inch oak that they're not able to
Thought I read elm earlier.
And there may be elms on the property. Yeah, there's a 30-inch elm as well, but they are retaining that tree, preserving it. So something else, just to make you aware of it, the applicant is certainly aware of it, the owner is aware of it, TxDOT is very aware of it because it's their proposed project to expand that section of I-35, which is currently under design, but they're still working on the design, so they don't know which properties will be impacted. There's a good chance these properties would be impacted, but we just don't know at this time. So they're aware of that risk and what that investment in that property might mean. So we have just made them aware of that. In terms of notification, it was printed in the newspaper on June 6th. 7 notices were sent to property owners within 200 feet. And we have not received any responses from any of those neighbors. And the Development Review Committee did review this on May 19th. And issues related to, questions about the materials that they want to use. And we'll get into that in a little bit. But staff's recommendation is for disapproval of the request. Of course, just reiterating, this is not an allowed use. And while the applicant has proposed to incorporate some additional elements into the existing site, we just don't feel like maybe that's the right site for it. They just may not have enough room to accommodate additional landscaping, et cetera. But they've done an admirable job in our opinion, but also just related to the timing, as we mentioned before, just that is a factor just for consideration about the TxDOT widening project. But looking at the Planning and Zoning Commission recommendation at their June 16th meeting, they voted in favor of the applicant's request by a vote of 8-1. And there were, I referenced a couple of the recommendations that kind of alternate recommendations of, hey, if P&Z were to consider approving it, here are some conditions that can be considered. Those are the ones that they recommended are on the screen. And so those include, just compliance, of course, with the other I-35 standards, that allowing the use to expand what is a non-conforming use. But number 3, an ornamental 6-foot tall, essentially wrought iron looking fence along the perimeter of both the existing site and the expanded site to create some uniformity, improve the look, kind of tie them together. Once again, we recommended limiting the height of their machinery to 15 feet in the front, 30 in the back. And the applicant just said that wouldn't work for them. P&Z agreed. So that is, if you all were to approve per P&Z recommendation, then it would not include arranging their lifts from tallest to in the back.
Yeah, I know. I've seen a lot of these yards where they'll take their, their telehandler or something like that and extend it, sort of as a form of advertising. Is that what's being referred to here? With I don't know of a piece of equipment that you can rent that's 30 feet tall.
Right.
When it's totally compact.
Yes, it would be about extending
okay.
Yeah. And as they mentioned, as you can imagine, when those lifts are down, it creates a little bigger of a footprint.
Yeah.
So
now everything we're talking about tonight would only apply to the new property to the south, right? Because they currently do that on the existing property to the north.
Correct. Yes. So that in terms of the height, that would really apply to the expansion.
Right.
The fence and some of these other standards would apply to the entire site.
Got it.
Okay. The tree retention, which we talked about before, that P&Z agreed that the trees as proposed to preserve is fine, that the 36-inch oak tree could go. Also, just landscaping in Tract A, landscaping the right-of-way, Tract A being the current site. Of course, still having to meet the standards, but still requiring TxDOT approval, which means wouldn't be trees, it'd be shrubs and probably a combination of other ground cover, river rock, mulch, rather than trees. Tract B, the expanded site, the 15% landscape per the site development plan that we looked at. Also, the material being compacted asphalt millings over compacted subgrade. And that is something that Mr. Michael Rogers, the architect, addressed during the workshop of how that's compacted and is from their experience is suitable for large trucks. Requiring the subdivision plat, also compliance with TxDOT standards. Number 12, with the overlay and any additional standards. And then the last one, and somehow this does not include the update that I made. I'm sorry, I must not have done it in time to get it into this PowerPoint, but it's on the shared drive is the language that I had discussed with the architect of, 2 items related to this is a P&Z recommendation to improve the existing buildings on site, those that will be retained. So, there's the metal building, the new expanded site. There's and we can go back to some photos or all right, that works.
While Kelly's pulling that up, Brian, the ordinance,
go.
the draft ordinance does say that the height of the equipment limitation is for both tracks.
Okay, both tracks.
So
Thank you.
unless you change that, staff's recommendation was both tracks.
Both tracks.
And P and Z recommendation is both tracks, except for they recommend you phase it in terms of one height for the front half and another half, but it would apply to both tracks. Unless
Said that wouldn't work though, flip-flopping that equipment, is that correct?
That's our understanding, and we can let Michael Rogers address that. All right.
P and Z, it says height of equipment limited to 15 feet on the front half and 30 feet on the rear half of both tracks.
Okay.
That was their recommendation.
Thank you, Brian.
And the applicant agreed with that?
No, the applicant did not. P&Z also did not agree with
Got
that.
it.
So what is in the draft ordinance is per staff recommendation. All right, so number 12, to the additional language that P&Z recommended about improving the remaining buildings on site, because of course, several of those will be demolished. We're proposing providing improvements to the exterior of the existing buildings on both tracts to include 1, painting the buildings to match each other. That was something P&Z wanted to see some cohesiveness. And then 2, adding a structural canopy over the office entrance. And as we discussed in the workshop, that's the existing building, essentially what is, probably a 20-foot, 25-foot tall office building with the bays next to it that are kind of set back. So that's the most prominent building on the site. So that would provide some architectural relief, but also just some additional shade and cover for the workers as they come in and out of the offices. And that is all that I have. And I'm sure Mr. Rogers would have some additional comments or be happy to answer questions as well.
Very good. Thank you. Council, I'm
We
sorry.
talked about that cover. It's only on that one building, correct? Just
Yes,
so-
because essentially there would be 2 buildings remaining. If you on the existing site, if it is a single building, the bay and an office, but their bays are set back. So there's that building. That's the only one where they'll have any offices or any walk-in customers. The other remaining building would be on the new site, and that is just that remaining metal warehouse.
All right, Mayor and Council, just to correct, staff recommended 15 feet limit on the whole site. P and Z recommended 15 feet on the front half and 30 on the back. And that I think the applicant agreed to.
Okay. So, okay. All right, sounds good. Thank you, Brian.
Council, anything else? All right, then, at this time, I'll open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak on this matter may do so. We ask you step to the podium and state your name or raise your hand on the virtual platform.
Evening, council. My name is Michael Rogers with Michael Rogers Designs out of El Dorado, Arkansas. I'm the architect representing United Rentals on various projects nationally. And we were selected to carry this project through the zoning and permitting and construction phases. This is, we recognize this is a very early stage. I want to be sure I'm clear on where we are with everyone, on what was presented. We have an existing property there at 5210. That is simply too small now. We are looking to expand an existing business that is there. We had an adjacent property owner that we began talks with that currently we do not have a lease agreement with. We do not have terms, mainly because we need this phase to know that we can use the property for this expansion. Once we know that we can do that, then we will enter into a negotiation and agreement with the property owner to then expand into that property. Once that is in place, then we will provide construction plans, design plans, permit plans with both the city, with TxDOT, and go through the process. So whenever you see things just outlining landscaping areas, and it just simply says we will meet the code of having the 15%, at this point, that is all that we know, because there are many more steps of approval that we need to get to before we say what that landscaping is exactly. There are a couple of things I just want to go through just so that everybody understands, and then I'll answer any questions. What we ran into on this is to where there's an existing property that is grandfathered in, and then there is an expansion property that is very limited on what the use is and what the limitations are. And knowing that because of what we would like to do with the property does not fully meet what the requirements are, and we understood from the beginning that we would probably not be getting the full planning department's full approval on this, we started offering improvements to the current site. So the height restriction was one to where we are grandfathered in to raise the booms as you see them today. That is a footprint issue. We simply just raise them up. Now, some of them, I believe one as I was driving into town today is raised up as high as it can go, and it has an American flag up there for the weekend, right? We have those raised up just simply so that we can have a footprint that's more negotiable there on site for putting equipment there. And instead of having a expansion property that had a 15-foot limit on the height to it, and then having a grandfathered property that had no limit to it, what we proposed was that we provide a height restriction across both properties. Now, the planning department, because of the code, would love to have a 15-foot height on that, but by the time you do take a man lift and just simply lift it vertical, even with it telescoped all the way in, you're beyond that 15-foot. So what we proposed was to take the 15-foot, put that to the front half of both of the properties, so that we did have a grandfathered property that we are trying to improve and be a good neighbor on, and then take the 30-foot height and put it to the back side of both properties. Same thing on the fencing. We knew that we, again, were not meeting all the qualifications that were needed on the expansion property. So we said we will take the ornamental fencing, we will take some of the landscaping that is feasible to. We will even do building improvements on the existing property that we have now to be a good neighbor to the expansion property, knowing that we can't meet the very tough limitations that we have on that. So we started looking at that all the way around, even to where talking with the planning department, our client was looking to, as most equipment rental and construction companies do, let's take down all the trees. Believe we had a spirited back and forth, and now we're just back to, instead of taking 4 of them out, we're taking 1 out as proposed. Planning department would still have that debate with me as far as they can, and to keep the 1, and we understand that completely. at the end of the day, we are looking to expand this so we can keep the business there, so that we can keep a long-term lease. Knowing what TxDOT is looking to do, the possibilities of that, we completely understand that. But wanting to have that location both with the existing property owner that we have now and with a new property owner being able to put a viable business in an abandoned area at this point. So I'd be happy to answer any questions, go into any details, but that's just the general nature of what we're looking to do.
You've done this before. How long typically does it assuming that, you you get through this hurdle and approval's done, how long typically does it take until the plans are drawn up, construction starts, and ultimately that that expansion is occupied?
Right. So what we are looking at is we would have to enter into a lease agreement, but we would begin really the development of plans that takes about 8 weeks on our part. We would be using a local civil engineer to do that. We'd have to meet all the stormwater requirements, everything that's needed. Then it gets into permitting both at the city and the TxDOT level. And the TxDOT is where the big question mark on that goes into. I'm getting the same questions from my client as I do with that is how quick can we be in there? So rest assured, we're trying to execute that process as soon as possible. We wanted to be in there 6 months ago. And that's not anybody's issue. That is simply, we recognize that our client recognized an issue of we have to expand, and they would have moved next door, taken the fence down that day and moved next door if they could.
Sure.
So from our perspective, we're trying to get through that as quickly as possible. But the TxDOT is something that usually takes other state agencies. It could take 4 weeks, before we actually do that. And then you have a good 8 weeks worth of construction as far as putting millings down to be able to start moving equipment over there. So my client will probably not like hearing this over the audio, but you're a good 6 months away from being able to actually be at that at best.
Got it. Thank you. Council, anything else? No? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Rogers.
Yep. Thank you.
Anybody else from the audience or anybody on the platform? Nothing there. All right. Very good. Then I'll now close the public hearing. In council, there's a lot to go over there, so I'll entertain a motion or further discussion.
Can you put all the P and Z and staff, the stuff you just had up there?
Just let us know if you want me to flip over to the
Okay.
previous one too.
Reading through it again.
All right, let me.
Of course, I can't make a motion, but one of the things that we discussed in workshop was those landscape areas. I know there are requirements for those landscape areas. And I know there are also requirements for them to keep those required landscape areas to keep whatever landscape is in there alive. And I know that then again, the city staff then has to monitor that to be sure that they're in compliance with keeping those landscape areas alive. And I also understand that this is it could be somewhat difficult. Mr. Rogers, you would know that about installing irrigation, under the current asphalt and things like that. But to me, without irrigating that, I think there would be great opportunity for that landscaping to die. And then it becomes one more thing that the city has to then, go out, code compliance, be sure that it's being properly cared for. If it dies and, citations are, that whole process of requiring compliance. And so I personally would be in favor of an irrigation system. I've bought those before. I know they're expensive. But again, my thought is we have an overlay that there are some requirements, and they're asking for a variance on the overlay, and they're asking for variances on what's allowed versus what's, they're asking for lots of things that don't comply with the overlay. And that's okay. We've done variances before. But I personally, I think as a way to get through the variances, I would appreciate them being careful with the landscaping. Because as Temple continues to grow, what we're trying to do, what the sort of the face that we're trying to put forth is, and that's why we have the I-35 overlays, because we're trying to impact the people's impressions that go through Temple. And we already have a non-compliant use across the road with the tractor dealership, again, which is fine. But I would, if we're gonna issue variances on a number of other things, let's at least make that frontage road continue to, well, this doesn't look nice now. I was about to say continue to look, it doesn't look nice, but to make it look nice and to keep it looking nice without the city having to go out there and continue to require that compliance. My opinion.
And just to clarify, I mean, we're not telling them exactly what irrigation system needs to go in. It would just need to be considered a permanent irrigation system. It could even be drip,
Sure.
could be above ground. I mean, it just, and Michael knows more about that than I do, but in terms of, that it's more than the 150-foot hose that our code allows.
I mean, there's they're requesting asphalt millings that are compacted. Well, that's fine. Compaction is fine until you run big, man lifts and trucks and things, all that stuff, go. I mean, it's, I think in many ways the city is working toward allowing a variance. Or we could get there, but that's one thing that I would really appreciate happening.
Mr. Chandler, what's in UDC section 6.77D? Or
Let's see.
0.7.7.D?
That's just the overall landscaping requirements in terms of the spacing of, the types of landscaping allowed in the overlay, but also the spacing in terms of, the number of shrubs versus tree.
I believe you mentioned earlier that would include in that what we were calling area 6 is some 2-inch ABH trees or
That is correct. So on the private property, that darker area, the landscape buffer requirements in the front. So that excludes the right of way. That's what's on their property, the accounting towards the total of the 15% required in this section of the overlay. Yes, that includes regularly spaced minimum 2-inch diameter breast height trees, that are typically oaks or elms or, crepe myrtles are not considered that type of tree. Ornamentals are allowed elsewhere, but in terms of, actual street trees. Yes, sir.
Yes, please do.
The 36-inch, I do want to be sure that I do clarify on that. The 36-inch that is being removed, we are replacing that in kind.
Okay.
With several larger diameter trees to the way that the code reads. We're not just taking the 36-inch out and then we're staying to the minimal standards. We're replacing that diameter in inches in kind with some larger trees along that same area. So just so that's clear. We're trying to do the minimum, but at the same time, we are trying to be a good neighbor and we understand what we are asking.
Is that in this probably for Mr. Chandler? Is that in the?
That's on the site
6.77D?
plan that was
Yes.
submitted. Yes.
So it would be
All right,
enforceable.
Yes.
Sir. And I believe they're 6-inch trees.
Yes.
So,
We've got minimum 6-inch trees
Yep,
there.
6-inch trees. Those are huge.
So that's in here. That's nothing needs to be added to.
It's in the site plan that
Right.
we submitted as the binding agreement.
Substantial compliance with the site plan addresses that. Yes, sir.
I'd like to
Thank you.
say first, congratulations on expansion. At a time when a lot of businesses are leaving, you're growing. And so that's a good thing. But we also talked in a workshop about Xeriscape. So I don't know what percentage that is, and you guys can work that out, later, but that's an option as well. So you're not having that irrigation issue, with yucca plants or whatever you decide to put in there. So again, congratulations and I think it's gonna be a great thing.
And if I can just clarify the landscape options, the shrubs, ground cover, trees within our code, those are all considered Texas natives, drought tolerant species. And so a typical xeriscape would include those type of trees anyway. The code does allow, a certain percentage to be river rock, but even the drought tolerant species, hey, if we've got several months without rain, they're not going to survive. And so the irrigation is really needed.
Council, anything else?
Get it?
Got it?
There's a lot there to put down in words for.
Yeah.
Have the site come out right.
Right.
I mean, if it wasn't there already, I probably wouldn't want to move something in that goes against our overlay, but I think we may have an opportunity here to keep a good business in our town and to make the current place, the current location there look better and to dress up this whole area with it a little bit, there. So I'm willing to give some on that. I want to make sure I make a motion right because I want to include the P and Z's recommendation on the 30 in the back and the 15 in the front.
Mhm.
Is that the only thing that differs from?
That's
That
actually how the
recommendation.
site plan is submitted right now. So that is how the binding agreement would be.
Okay,
It was just noted on the list to
Okay.
bring it to everyone's attention.
I'm going to attempt to make a motion and knowing I want that, if I'm not covering it all, let me know. I move to approve this item with the staff and the P and Z recommendation. And also having proper irrigation on all the plants. Is
Just
that,
for clarification, on the staff side, we recommended a 36-inch oak tree, to be preserved, which P and Z did not, of course. So if you're fine, so it's probably just the P and Z recommendation.
so the
Yes.
P and Z's got the recommendations of the staff.
Yeah,
Except
so
for
P and Z's
so
recommendation.
if I recommend P and Z
Yes, sir.
recommendation, that covers, so.
And with
So I would-
irrigation.
So I would move to approve it with the P and Z's recommendation and add the proper irrigation.
The only thing, Mike, I would say in addition is the P and Z added condition 12, but added it very, as we mentioned in workshop, very non-precisely. They just wanted to see building improvements, and I asked Brian to get more specific with that so that everyone would understand exactly what that means. So that language is staff's language to implement what P and Z added. So I would just make sure that is okay with you because that P and Z didn't see that. They just said they wanted building improvements. And we recommend that to be you to be more specific about what that means to you.
And to staff, that means painting?
The discussion at P and Z, not to interrupt, the discussion that
Just-
night was.
Just a minute. So that includes, Brian, what, painting?
Painting,
some sort of
painting the
makeup.
remaining buildings.
Oh.
And then the staff's adding a structural canopy over the office entrance to really just say, okay, what are the improvements? Yes. What seems to be reasonable. And while United may not jump at that, but at least as their consultant, the architect has said that, that can be done. And of course, that would be staff's recommendation to add that
So
canopy.
painting to match.
Painting to match, and then the
You look at number
structural
12.
canopy or awning.
The language in number 12 is what staff is suggesting be the precise language to implement what P and Z said. P and Z just said building improvements, and without some more specificity, I don't think that we will be able to enforce that because that would just come up.
Yeah.
They could say anything was a building improvement.
So painting to match in structural canopy, that's staff.
That's what we're recommending to
additions.
implement,
Got it.
what P and Z added as a
Got it.
condition.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
in your motion, Mike, if you say, I move to approve it based on P and Z's recommendation, including staff's clarification on what, and on how number, 12 would be implemented, I think that would give us what we needed.
That does remind me of something I think you mentioned earlier about them choosing 2 items out of our list. Where is
Yeah.
that incorporated at, Brian?
Okay, so. And that was something kind of, in trying to figure out what was P and Z's intent? How can we make this more definable? Went back to the code. And so this section of the architectural standards in the retail sub-district, it's a menu of options. And so, it includes not only awnings and canopies, but also includes, say parapet, wall parapet, storefront windows. And so that is what I mentioned in workshop
But that's
that we
not
have right there.
currently in the current, if I kind of change my motion as Brim was saying, would just be those 2 items, not. picking
That's
2
right.
out of
So
these.
your motion, that's very specific. This is more of a menu of options, but to say painting was clear. That's what that was clear in the intent at P and Z, which Mr. Rogers, has agreed with that. But the second part, in terms of other improvements, well, this was another option that at least staff went directly back to the code to say, rather than the code would say three of the following for a building 50,000 square feet or less, but to say painting is not here, painting be 1 and 2 of these to kind of meet that intent.
But but the stuff on the 2 items on the other slide, is that what staff would feel would be
We
2 items that y'all chose out of this that you feel would create the intent that P and Z
we
wanted?
feel like it would, and they were kind of in agreement
Okay.
to that concept. A bunch of these really are not
Yeah.
feasible.
Right.
And so it is a menu, but it's really a menu of a very short list of items that would be feasible for their scope.
So I would like to clarify my motion to, and without seeing it up there, I'm getting lost. The items that are listed here on number 12.
Okay.
That are an interpretation of P and Z's recommendation.
So P and Z's recommendation with more specificity as listed on item number 12 related to building improvements. And then did you make a motion related to irrigation?
Yes.
And what was that?
Adding irrigation.
Adding irrigation. Okay. Thank you.
Is that clear as mud?
It's recorded, it's documented, they'll figure it out.
I second.
Right, very good. So we have a motion on item 10 by Councilmember Pilkington. We have a second by Councilmember Grant. Council, please cast your vote. There it goes. Item 10 passes 5 votes to 0. Item 11 is another item that we are going to postpone to August 7th. I'm sorry, I don't think I formally closed the public hearing on that last item, so I'll do that now. And then, so public hearing is closed on item 10. Moving on to item 11 is the first reading of public hearing to consider adopting an ordinance authorizing a rezoning request from commercial, light industrial, and multifamily to commercial with conditional use permit to allow a contractor storage and equipment yard on 18.3549 plus or minus acres located in the Uri Whole Brule Survey, abstract number 1009, and the Garrett S. Hardcastle Survey, abstract number 405, City of Temple, Bell County, Texas, addressed as 3911 North General Bruce Drive. And again, per discussion, council, we will postpone this item until the August 7th meeting. And with that, I will entertain a motion.
Mayor, I'm sorry, just a second. Jana just said that they had specifically requested the table until the 17th. Do you know if it
Yes,
would
ma'am.
be a problem to wait until the 7th? Or if you,
I
if
don't
you,
know, if the applicant's
Well, we can table
online,
it
they can
again at the 7th, can't we?
Determined.
we,
I mean, at the,
It would be best. Let's go ahead and table this one until the 17th. And as long as the motion is tabling to that date certain, the notification for the public hearing should hold over until that date.
Okay, very good. Then I will entertain a motion that we postpone till July 17th. I will entertain a motion.
So moved.
I have a motion. We have a second. So we have a motion by Councilmember Kirkendall. We have a second by Mayor Pro Tem Walker. Council, please cast your vote. Motion to postpone till the 17th. Although the motion language was not, did someone say the 17th, or they just accepted the motion and that's good enough? Okay, very good. Then motion to table is passes 5 votes to 0. Moving on to item 12 is the first reading and a public hearing to consider adopting an ordinance authorizing a rezoning and binding site.
AKA West Adams. It's next to the Commonwealth and the Arbor Square development, as well as a city elevated storage tank, what most folks would call a water tower. There is an access road shown on the aerial photo that serves as both the driveway entrance to the parking area for the Commonwealth and Arbor Square, the entrance for this proposed development, and it's got an access easement to guarantee city utility can reach that storage tank. As you see on the aerial photo, had a number of trees on it, was otherwise undeveloped. It had been a trailer park years in the past. And there's a number of large homes to the west and to the north in the Eagle Landing and Lagoterra neighborhoods. So we do have some site photos. So in the upper left, you see the aforementioned water tower. The driveway that will go away per TxDOT. They're implementing some of their access standards, which is why that sole entrance was that yellow access road I showed you on the previous slide. In the upper right, you see some of the adjacent homes through the trees. On the lower right is some of the existing development along 2305. That's the firewood business that sits out there. And then on the lower left is the site just recently after P&Z that shows that a good number of the trees had been removed. These two photos were provided by one of the neighbors from their view off of Eagle Landing Drive, showing back in May where the previous trees had been, and then after they had been removed, and you can see the base of the water tower through the gap in the trees. So this is a planned development neighborhood service rezoning. It's a mixed use. The neighborhood service supports a number of uses, could be business or offices, could be residential townhomes or single family. Want to be clear though, the neighborhood service doesn't allow the more intense uses that you might get in a general retail zoning, such as a discount store or drive-through restaurant. So the intensity is going to be lower. During the pre-development process and then after they submitted, there was some discussion with the applicant about the applicability and the compatibility of offices or retail businesses and maybe homes on this site with the existing homes to the west and the north. The site plan did go through a couple revisions, and then this was what went to P&Z on the 16th. So this shows the attached townhome dwellings on the north and the west side. It also shows in the green a landscape buffer to give some cushion with the existing neighbors. You see the interior lots. Those would be future office or retail sites, maybe a vet clinic, maybe a real estate office. There's no specific tenants have been identified at this time. There's 2 blue areas for detention ponds, so manage some of the drainage. And then I want to talk a bit about the internal street network. So these will be private streets. That was something that the applicant requested. And during the DRC process, we talked with GIS. How are these lots, whether they're homes or businesses, how are these addressed if it's a private street? There are areas that in the past, previous versions of 911 standards, where you got a 12,000 FM 2305 address, and then your suite 232 and all the way in the back. What the standards allow to do and what we're proposing, and it's included as a condition with this one, is that these will be named private streets. So they'll be open to the public, maintained by the HOA or the property owners. But they will be named, and then the buildings will be addressed and added to the 911 system. So you will get a very clear direction for your first responders wherever that call goes. There's no hunting that's going to go on. So staff's in favor of it, and the applicant's on board with it. On this site plan, they're showing 36 townhomes. There's 9 buildings, 4 units each. Each would have a garage and a driveway, and you see some of the short access drives that come off of the internal street network. The buffering and screen, of course, is required by code. We're emphasizing that with the site plan. They were asked to show and color code that 15-foot landscape buffer. There's conditions for tree plantings in that buffer. And I've already discussed the drainage areas and the